Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am recording this on Sunday, October 19th in the year 2025. And it is a beautiful evening here in Escazú, Costa Rica, where I am recording this, with the frogs chirping and the crickets chirping, if you can hear them in the background. They're lovely, and I get to experience this every night. So yes, those are my nighttime sounds. It's not that late; it's only 6:30 here, and here we are. We are in the very end of the sign of Libra this week. We are moving into the last days of Libra. We are moving into Scorpio this week, and we have some really interesting energy happening. So I want to tell you that the sun enters Scorpio on Wednesday, the 22nd of October at 11:51 p.m. And so this is a very powerful turn of events, because when the sun goes into Scorpio, that's when we start to welcome the true darker days and the mysterious nights, and I don't mean dark days like it's a dark moment in my life, it's a dark night of the soul. I mean, it's the celebration of, there's Halloween, there's the experience of the Day of the Dead, which are days celebrated in Latino countries like the one I live in. So, November 1st, which is the end of next week, is going to be a day of celebration, remembering the ancestors. So this is a time of the ancestors. This is a time of remembering those who have passed. This is when the veil of connection between here and there is very thin. And we can connect with our ancestors, connect with those who have departed, the loved ones we have. And it's very important to remember this, because you might be experiencing your dreams where your loved ones who have passed on and who are on the other side, they are visiting you in your sleep. This is a time to ask them for guidance. This is a time to speak to being messaged by them, or connect with them in your messaging. It's a great time to go deep, 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 because Scorpio is a deep sign. It is ruled by Pluto. And also, traditionally, before Pluto was discovered, Scorpio was ruled by Mars. So we have Mars in Scorpio right now, and this is a very profound time of year. Now, Scorpio gets a bad rap. Scorpio gets all sorts of, ooh, they're vengeful, ooh, they're this and that. Get to know a Scorpio, okay? Get to know a Scorpio, because they are usually, most likely, if they are a balanced Scorpio, a balanced emotionally balanced Scorpio, they are lovely, salt of the earth people. And they will stick by you and be your dear friend for many, many years. And they are up to the challenge. They're up to support you. They are there. They are very, very profound, smart, deep people. Now, of course, there's good and bad, light and dark in every sign, including, Libra, Pisces, Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo. Always. There's light and there's dark. There's lack of balance, etc., when you are dealing with all the signs, with people in general. So, don't just say, ooh, I don't like Scorpio. The placement that is more complicated is the moon in Scorpio. And the sun in Scorpio is, where the vitality is, where they want to go deep, where they want to get intense, where they're passionate. And they're passionate about what they do. So that's what you want. You want a Scorpio person who's passionate about what they do and loves their life and, loves people deeply. And the thing is, with the moon in Scorpio, it's not at its best place because it's exalted in the sign of Taurus. So the moon is, when it goes into Taurus, is exalted and very lovely, in Taurus. But when it's in its, that opposite from the exaltation, it's in its fall. And so I think the bigger issue is that people who have the moon in Scorpio are not always, what we want them to be, shall we say. And you find out later, ooh, they have the moon in Scorpio. And that's intense and it's a little tough. And I think that when people have the moon in Scorpio, it really is something that they have to contend with themselves. And, you don't want to corner those people because they will, if you corner them, they will sting you. And I think that's where Scorpio gets its reputation. But it's really the moon. It's not the sun so much. It really isn't. And Scorpio moon is really where you want to make sure you've got your headlights on and see what's coming. Okay. But not so much the Scorpio sun. So we've got the sun going into Scorpio. And I want to tell you that there is a new moon this week on Tuesday, the 21st. And it is at 28 degrees of Libra. So it's right before the sun goes into Scorpio. The moon and the sun are joining at 8:25 a.m. Eastern Time on the 21st. And that's a special moment as well. Now, 28 Libra is a famous point in astrology. And while it is from 40-something years ago, it has its vibe. So that vibe tends to surface every now and again. So back in 1982, 83, Saturn and Pluto in their conjunction were at 28, 29 Libra. Saturn and Pluto don't conjunct very often. The last time we had a conjunction of Saturn and Pluto was during COVID, during 2020. And they went back and forth. In COVID, in 2020, they got together early January, once, and they didn't get an exact conjunction again and again the way they did in like 1982, 1983. They just kind of kept bouncing back and forth. And Saturn was bouncing between Scorpio and then back to Libra by retrograde. So back then, there were some very intense things going on in the world. Israel and Lebanon were at war. That was a big deal. And my teacher used to say that 29 degrees Libra, that 28, 29 degrees Libra was a hot point, and it was a turning point in astrology, because that was right before everything went into Scorpio, before Pluto went into its own sign of Scorpio and was there till like 1995. So it carries weight, that 28, 29 degrees. Now, when we had the election in the United States in the year of 2000, the presidential election, Mercury was retrograde the day it was election day, and it turned direct during the day we were having the election. So it was stopping at 29 Libra. And I remember before that, Michael was saying to us, yeah, I heard there's going to be recounts and there's going to be all sorts of heavy stuff going on. And, we're not going to have an answer, and et cetera, before the election. And this was when Mercury was stationing retrograde to go direct. Okay. So the election happened. I woke up the day after the election. I turned the radio on, and the first thing I heard was, we still don't have a president. And I remember I screamed because he was saying that 29 Libra Mercury retrograde stationing direct was going to affect that election in a major way. Well, it sure did. And if you remember that historical moment, that was a big one. And so this is a trigger. This can be a trigger. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of news and solutions in that region of the world with Israel, and perhaps there'll be some story that surfaces this week. I don't doubt it. But in your own life, where is this 28, 29 degrees Libra? And if you were alive back in 1982, and you were maybe an adult or a young adult or a teenager or something, or you were a kid, what was going on for you? Because that was a heavy time. And it was really complicated, I remember. And that was a particularly heavy-duty Saturn-Pluto conjunction. And they didn't conjunct again until COVID. And so that was nearly 40 years later. The time before that was 1946, 1947, that Saturn and Pluto were conjunct, and they were conjunct in Leo. So they were in Leo back in the 40s, then they didn't conjunct again until 1982, and then they got together again in 2020. So here we are. Now, that was 5 years ago. So there may be something here that has a flavor in your life, and perhaps this is going to be a drive-by visual, not the real thing from back then. It's driving by the scene of the accident, driving past the memory, looking in the photo book, remembering from back then. It's not 1982, it's not 1983. This is something that we want to look at in our own lives because this is one of those hot points in astrology. The other point that's going to be affected by this new moon is 13 degrees of mutable, which is Sagittarius and Gemini and Virgo and Pisces. And that's important because if you have planets there, you are certainly going to have some sort of, event or memory or something that comes up because of that. And that's 13. Now the nodes are at 17, so I wouldn't really say that's too exact because the nodes at 17, and they're not going to be at 16 or something for a while. This is too much of an orb, what we call an orb of influence. So it's like 4 degrees away. I would say it doesn't really involve the nodes so much. There's a wide connection there. But it's 13, probably 12, 13, 14 mutable. Okay? And if you've got anything at that point in any of those signs I just mentioned, then you may feel this as a trigger. So just pay attention to that. And in the meantime, though, it's a new moon. So, hey, what do you want to create new in the world? This is a wonderful thing. A new moon is always something that we are looking forward to because we can create something new. And now we're fully out of all the eclipses and we are moving forward into something new. And we are really past, this is the first lunation that is past the eclipses. The last one was past, but it ended the eclipse period. Now we're free of all of that. So great. So now, what do you want to create? What do you want to make happen? I want to tell you that I have 2 lectures planned. The first one is going to be early November, and it's going to be a simple Ask Me Anything, which I've never really done with my astrology audience before. I've done it with the Internations group, and I'm going to put out the information about that in the next few days. It's going to be early November, I think November 5th. And it's going to be an evening of asking me anything you want. And it's going to be, astrology, Reiki, healing, meditation, quantum field, any of that stuff, any of the things that I know, any things that I talk about, you are invited to join me and we will have a discussion about your questions and what questions you have about these things. So it could be anything involving there. The other lecture is going to be in early December, which is going to be my annual look at the following year. So that's going to be the 2026 lecture, and I'll be putting all of that information out in the next days. So yes, there's time to sign up for all of it. Don't worry, I will be announcing it here, Instagram, and if you're not on my mailing list, go get on my mailing list because I'll be sending out a mailing about this and putting it up on my website to purchase. But my mailing list you can get on by going to thegoldenastrologer.com, and you go there and you see a little box will come up, Astrologer's Thoughts. So you just sign up for my mailing list there, put your email in, and you'll be automatically added to my mailing list. So that's a great thing. And so, yes, I'll probably send that out once the new moon happens, so that this way it's not in the dark of the moon, right? But I want to give you a heads up because we're going to be doing these lovely lectures and really sort of looking at these times ahead and taking people's questions. So that's special and upcoming from me. Okay, so other things are happening this week that are really important. Right now, Mercury and Mars are conjunct, or they're going to be exact at 2:52 a.m. tomorrow morning in the sign of Scorpio. So if you have something to say that's important, if you have ideas you're trying to generate, if you are looking to connect with someone intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, it's a good time to have a conversation, do a meditation, work with this energy. So it's great to generate ideas, really, because it's Mars fueling Mercury. And so it's a nice ripe aspect over these next few days. So that's one thing. The other thing is that Neptune, our friend Neptune, is going backwards, and it's going back into the sign of Pisces. It's going to enter Pisces Wednesday the 22nd, the day the sun enters Scorpio, but it will be at 5:48 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, this is important because Neptune's been here a bunch of times. So Neptune is, as you know, as you've been listening to me, bouncing back and forth between the end of the zodiac and the beginning of the zodiac, between 28, 29 Pisces to 0 degrees Aries, 1 degree Aries. So the first time Neptune did this was July of 2024, and it stopped in the sky and made its retrograde at 29 degrees Pisces, which means it did not cross into Aries. And I mean 29:59 Aries. It could not be later in the zodiac before we start a new zodiac. So it's saying, hey, we have some unfinished business here. So at 29:59 Pisces, the last second of the zodiac, it turned around and went back through Pisces, and then eventually went direct and then stepped into that same 29 Pisces earlier this year, and then eventually went into Aries. Went into Aries, moved through a few degrees of Aries, and then went retrograde again in July, and now has been moving in that apparent backwards motion to arrive back at the end of Pisces. This is important for lots of reasons. We have unfinished business still at the end of the zodiac. So this is looking at the deepest spiritual component of our lives, creative, intuitive, things that we're winding down before we start anew. So this is really important for all of us, because what are we doing? We are ending a 165-year cycle of Neptune going through the entire zodiac and now starting all over again, because that's what the planets do in their cycles. But Neptune, no one alive on this earth has seen this before. We have never gone through Neptune in Aries fully through the whole 30 degrees of the sign that we're going to do over the next 12 years or so, 13 years, once Neptune steps in early next year in February, and then goes, or January 26th actually, it goes back into Aries, and that's it. We're done. No more Pisces. So between this Wednesday and next January, we are going to be experiencing Neptune at the very end of Pisces. Now, this is a lot of heavy-duty energy, because Neptune is not going to do anything else. It's going to stay at the end of the zodiac, stay at 29 Pisces. It's going to go direct on December 10th at 29 Pisces. It's going to remain at 29 Pisces until the end of next January. And that's it. It's not going back to 28, 27. It's not flipping back and forth between Pisces and Aries. This is the moment of deep atonement. This is the moment of deep surrender. This is the moment of letting go. This is the moment of, preparing for the new. This is the moment of saying, what do I want to change in my life deeply, profoundly, so that I do not follow the path of the predictable future into this brand new cycle. What do you want to end, wrap up, clean up, and leave behind? Who do you want to forgive? Are you forgiving yourself? Are you loving yourself? Are you loving yourself enough to forgive yourself? Where do you need to forgive yourself in your life? Where do you need to forgive others? And people get, kind of upset with forgiveness. People don't necessarily understand the process and the whole concept of forgiveness. We're not forgiving other people because we are absolving them of whatever they did. They might have done something really horrible. But we are forgiving other people to let go so that we are not carrying this forward in our lives, because it doesn't do us any good. Because the more we hold on to the old stuff in our lives, the more we can't move forward. Forget them. We can't move forward. And if you're not letting that go, if you feel like you have to still punish people, you're not punishing them. You're punishing yourself. And Joe Dispenza says, that's like drinking the poison and expecting the other person to die, right? You're not punishing them. You're not holding a grudge against them and making sure that they know they did wrong. They've moved on. You got to let go, forgive, and release so that all of this can be healed. This is the deepest portion of healing in the astrological cycle. Okay, and Neptune, which rules Pisces, which rules healing, which is really at its own end of its own sign of this 165-year cycle. This is like falling on your knees in gratitude and forgiveness. Okay, this is deep. It's powerful. It is a profound moment. Okay. So we have to work on this, okay? Who do you want to forgive? Where do you want to go forward? What do you want to change in your life so that you don't carry it into the future? Where do you want to not have the predictable future happen? Where do you want to say, I want to change so that I can step into the unknown and create something new? That's what this is about. Aries is a deeply creative fire sign. It's the match being lit, okay? And so this whole process of letting go of the past and the old story is so important now, so that we go into that new creative energy bursting with possibility, when we've got that experience of Neptune going into Aries. We have only a few months left of this. It is a time of deep atonement, so I would highly recommend you think very profoundly about this and what you are ready to let go of, okay? And where you can just let it go and trust the unknown and trust the universe that the right things are going to happen, okay? So this is big. This is big, and that starts Wednesday, 5:48 a.m. Eastern Time. And so then the rest of the week we've got some other heavy hitters. We've got Jupiter squaring Chiron at 6:18 p.m. on Thursday the 23rd. And October is just flying by. And remember, I was talking about this last week of, we had Sun connecting the Jupiter Chiron. And the Sun was connecting with Jupiter, it was connecting with Chiron, there was a T-square. And so this is the last effort of that Jupiter Chiron from last week. And they are now talking to one another. And Jupiter is about expansion, and Chiron is about healing your wound or working with your wound and becoming aware of your wound. And Jupiter helps us open up to recognize what the wound is and see it, well, maybe it wasn't so bad, And then we have on Friday, the 24th, the Sun in Scorpio squaring Pluto in Aquarius. So the Sun will be in early Scorpio. It will have moved into Scorpio, as I said, on Wednesday. It'll only be a couple of degrees in and, a degree and a half or so. And that's where it's going to square Pluto. So that is a big moment because, this is all new. The sun did not square Pluto in Scorpio, from Scorpio to Aquarius last year. By the time Pluto went into Aquarius, the sun was way past the beginning of Scorpio. So this is what that means is the vitality, the sun, the energy, the life force is going to meet with the shadow and challenge the shadow. And so shine a light on our shadows, our subconscious, our personal underworld, the underworld, okay? And so we didn't have these. This is a place where Pluto hasn't been during this time of the year. And Pluto ruling the Scorpio season, this is very important. Again, the ancestors, again, the shadows, again, the connection to the underworld, the subconscious, the things not seen, and connecting to that veil and going beyond the veil where, our ancestors, our loved ones are. So this is so important because we are touching this very closely and profoundly this week. So I think that this is a great week to do some, intense meditations, to do some breath work, to work on healing ourselves, to, connect with and recognize our ancestral origins. And what do you want to clear away from that? What do you hold on to that's ancestral that you don't want to continue holding on? We all have ancestors. They all had patterns. There's something that's passed down. Your grandmother could have said something to your mother, and she repeatedly said that, and your mother would repeatedly say that to you when you were a kid or a teenager. And then you would be thinking, my mother used to say that all the time. Well, that's because her mother used to say that, and her mother's mother used to say that. And is that a belief you no longer want to hold on to? Is that something that you have running through your family, that subconscious line through your family that you don't really want to hold on to anymore? Again, this is something you can let go of when you have that Sun-Pluto square, and also, Neptune at the end of Pisces. So we're looking at what is deep and profound and releasing in our lives. What are we letting go of? This is something we do want to work with and work on. And it may be time to let go of something that relates to the Aquarius and Scorpio portions of your astrological chart. These are fixed signs, folks. These are fixed signs, Astro Darlings. This means we are stubborn there. We want to grip tight there. We don't necessarily want to let go, but maybe we're forced to let go. Hopefully you will have an epiphany, a realization, something opens with the sun squaring Pluto. It's shining a light there. And so we can open our hearts to something deeper and more profound. That's the whole juicy truth of this, okay? This is not something to be afraid of. This is, I'm opening my heart. And with Neptune at 29 Pisces, this is like the moment of opening your heart and really getting close to your own truth. The other thing is that same day, that Friday, Mercury in Scorpio is going to trine Jupiter in Cancer, and that is a smooth flowing aspect, and that totally opens the mind, opens the center, opens our heart and our perspective. So I think these are deep, juicy placements this week. We've got some really good depth happening this week, starting right away now, today, tomorrow, with that Mercury and Mars. And so this is not a week to be shallow. This is not a week to be avoiding things. It's a good week to go inward and feel. And this is what we do when the sun goes into Scorpio. We feel our feelings. And one of the mentors I listened to, Melanie Unlayer, was saying, she says this all the time. Why do we think we're not supposed to feel our feelings? Like we're just supposed to sweep it under the carpet and go on. Obviously, if you're in a public place, you don't want to have a meltdown, but you want to feel your feelings. You want to get connected to your feelings and understand them. That's the way to process them. If you've got stuff that's hard to feel, Like, I don't want to feel my anger. I don't want to feel my disappointment. I don't want to feel the loss, my grief. And gosh knows, God, we know that that Scorpio is a time of feeling the grief. This is like I said, the Day of the Dead. So you've got to feel those things, and they will pass. If you avoid them, you'll just shove them deeper inward, and all sorts of things will surface that you don't want. So it's best to sit with yourself and feel your feelings, especially during Scorpio season. And what a wonderful time to really go deep with your feelings. And remember, it's juicy. And we've got all these good aspects supporting that this week. So I highly encourage you to go deep with yourself, take some time for yourself, feel into what you're feeling. If you feel really deeply with it, it'll probably take a few minutes and it's gone, as opposed to shoving that grief or disappointment or anger under the carpet. That's never going to solve things, So get deep, get juicy, understand it, allow it, and let go. And in the meantime, if I can assist you with all of that, then certainly connect with me. Go to my website, thegoldenastrologer.com, connect with me there, click book online, and you can book an astrology session with me. Book a Reiki session where I can go deep with you emotionally, and there's where we're gonna get into that veil between here and the other side in the Reiki sessions. And astrology will be a good discussion and going deep with how you're feeling and what you have going on for you in your chart, and where that 29 degrees Pisces is for you, and what needs to be reckoned with at this time, atoned for. And then, if you want to watch me on Instagram, it's the Golden Astrologer. I'll be announcing these 2 lecture dates so that we can do some good work together. And I look forward to spending those times with you if you're joining me in those lectures. And I always make recordings, so there'll be that. And I also do expansion mentoring, where we go deep with each other for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And if you want to get juicy and you want to go deep and you want to clear old obstacles and old beliefs, this is what we do. And we pave a new path for you. And this is an excellent time to do that because of everything moving out of Pisces and into the new sign of Aries, and then of course Uranus moving out of Taurus and back into Gemini for good. And we're going to be looking at these things over these next months. So expansion mentoring can really help you shed the old and welcome the new. And I'm available to reach by email, deb@debmcbride.com, info@thegoldenastrologer.com. And I welcome you into my world. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being with me during this juicy podcast. And I will be here again, as I am every Sunday. And I thank you. Blessings to you this week. Have a beautiful new moon. And I will see you on the other side of this and on the internet this week. Thank you for listening.